friends, good evening, and this is your host Ankit Khandelwal joining you from Delhi, India, and welcome to IBM TV's Podcaster Thursday. As usual, we have a lot of podcasters and people and experts around the world joining us on our IBM TV's Podcaster Thursday, and I would like to invite our first guest, Rick Rosner from US.
Hey.
Hi, Rick. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all good, all well.
It's
How is everything going?
8 a.m. compared to 11 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yep, certainly. It's an early morning for you.
All right. Time has no meaning. I'm still under lockdown, so I went to bed at 4 a.m.
Oh, okay. I know. It's a difficult time around the world. In fact, in India, we have still struggling with a lot of cases coming up every day, and that's a difficult part. But we are trying our best. We have to work as a team, and we have to coordinate and work as a community and build up our cure. Because we still don't have a vaccine, so we have humanity, healthcare, and prevention, and try to wear mask and follow the right protocols to make sure that we are far away from the COVID thing, but it's still a difficult period at this point of time.
Okay, how do you feel about India? Are you doing
better? We are not doing better. We have like 60, 70,000 cases every day, and around 800 plus deaths every day. Depends. There's no fixed, but sometimes 1,000 deaths, sometimes 800, sometimes this, and we have almost like 7+ million cases so far. And a lot of people are struggling, and a lot of people are at home. They are getting a treatment at home, getting quarantine and stuff like that. So it's a difficult time, but no choice. As of now, we still struggling with a lot of stuff. In fact, the weather is also playing a very important role because there is extreme heat and extreme rains and thunderstorm and extreme wind in India and different parts of the country. We are still, somehow in October we never heard that drastic monsoon which happened, but this time we have a very drastic monsoon going on. So I don't know, but this year is a very, disaster year as of now because nothing is going on practically fine and things are not good. And I would like to welcome Roberto from Spano. Roberto Spano joining us from Italy. Hi, Roberto. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. And you?
I'm fine, all well. Struggling with COVID, trying to fight out and just keeping survival going on because this is a difficult time. So that's what we are working out around the world and waiting for the vaccines. We have Mark Lee also joining us from the US. Hi, Mark. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
All good. All well, and just doing the right things.
Glad to see you. Like I said, I know that you were going through some hard times and things of that nature. So definitely, my sympathies have definitely been going out for you and your family. But definitely was glad to see you on yesterday, and glad to see that you are dealing as best as you can during these times. So definitely, just wanted to give you my salutes and let your family know that we are definitely thinking about them over here as well. So you're my brother from over there in India. So I love to know that you're doing well.
That's great that we are, from different societies, different communities, and we still connect on IBM TV, and we created some kind of a relationship, and that also helps us out during the lockdown and during certain things because everyone is traveling around the world, and everyone can understand the emotion what people are facing at this point of time. But as of now, people are keen to know what's happening in US. So what's going on in US? Did you get time to vote yourself, Mark?
I did not go to vote today. Actually, early voting started today in Durham and around North Carolina. I think our good friend Zach went out first thing this morning to go out and vote. I'm hoping to go either this afternoon or no later than Friday or the first day of next week. We definitely will be doing early voting. And of course, there are already lines. I've seen reports that there are lines that are definitely stretching. And I don't know if you caught it yesterday, but I had a guest on that was from Texas. That is a musician and a poet on the online dinner party. And Asha was also talking about the fact that there are lines where she is as well. So we're definitely seeing a lot of folks that are lots of lines and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I think that there have been a whole record millions that have already gone out and voted already. So we're definitely seeing that a lot of folks are very passionate about this campaign and are definitely letting their voices be heard,
I
both
think,
in the
Rick wants
early
to add
voting
some.
and those other things. I think Rick had a point as well.
Yeah, my wife and I have our ballots in California. About the nation as a whole will cross 20 million ballots already cast today. We're running, I think, 3 to 4 times as many ballots cast early compared to this time in 2016. In 2016, about 130 million people voted. I think we'll probably break 140 million this time around. There's just a lot of enthusiasm or just frustration with the current leadership.
Yeah, I was going to say it's either enthusiasm or fear, because I know a lot of people are definitely very afraid of what's going on with our current leadership, and they like to see some changes. But then there are a lot of activists from the other side, if you want to call it progressive versus conservative, or liberal versus conservative, or if you want to call it like right versus left or whatever. But I do know that there are also some folks that are on the more right side that also are, I guess, afraid of their rights being taken, whether that's guns or whether that's a number of other things. So I do think that the majority of the folks that are going out to do early voting are coming from the progressive side. At least that's my hope. But like I said, I also know that sometimes those other forces can also get out and vote very heavily as well. So I'll be really curious to see how that breaks out. So what is your thoughts, Rick? Do you think that what you're seeing in California is a majority of the progressive community?
Rick?
Yeah, I'm in LA. You know, like a Trump supporter would be like a rare unicorn in LA. But yeah, I'm following a website that does the early voting statistics, and according to the site, about 56% of the ballots in the states they track are from registered Democrats, 23% from registered Republicans, and the rest are preference or independent. So it's pretty strongly Democrats right now, but that was expected. That early voters were expected to be about two to 1 for Biden, and then day of voters are expected to be about 3 to 2 Trump.
Wow. I see we've got Nick in the house as well, and I'm just curious, and I'm curious to hear from all our panelists whether you think that we'll ever see in our lifetime, and I'm 58 now, a third-party candidate that will actually be successful. So I'm gonna turn that over to our boss man, Nick, and see what he thinks of as to whether we will ever see a third-party candidate, since that is definitely something that I'm hearing a lot of people would like to see, whether that's the Green Party, whether that's the Libertarians, or something brand new.
They're out there. As a matter of fact, they're on the ballot, the Green Libertarian and the Constitutional Party. And the scenario would be if Trump caught COVID-19 and died, and then Biden died, then guess who gets elected? One of those 3 people on the ballot, the Green, Libertarian, or Constitutional Party. But absent something like that, I don't think we're going to see anything soon. Now, Trump gave himself a grade, which, by the way, is very dangerous, of how he handled the coronavirus, A+. Now, you know, Ankit, remember that? I'm looking for that screen I could share about how the United States and the rest of the countries do with coronavirus. I wouldn't be able to find. Do you get that from the WHO? Where do you get that data from? If you can share that.
I'll just share that basically.
Okay, share that data. Because the thing is, when I look at grades, I always like to look at data. You know, I'm like a data hog. I got to see data. And we're going to see if the data supports that. Now, Roberto, who's a huge Trump supporter in Italy, being an attorney there, may go, well, I don't know what you're going to say. And Rick is going to have to work some really mathematical magic to show how this would be an A+ result, at least in my humble opinion. So we're going to take a look at some data and see if this self-grading of A+ makes any sense at all to the panel. As soon as you get that up, Ankit, I would certainly like everybody to take a look at it, because I think we have a little bit of a problem here with, oh wait, here it comes. Okay, here we go. Let's just stop right here. Okay, now, Rick, you're really good at math. The United States. Let's go take a look at the United States. Total cases out of 38 million, we have 8 million. 13,000 new cases, 222,000 deaths. New deaths 232, recovered 5.2 million, active cases 2.6, serious cases 15,000. Total cases per 1 million population 24,000, deaths per million 670, and then they go the total tests 121,000. Now you look at India and you pick out what I would say the key data points. Total cases 7 million, total deaths 111,000. Key data point, death per million 80 per million. And then you go through the rest of the data, and you'd have to scan it quite quickly, Rick. And I know you're an extremely smart guy, so you'll have to put your scanners on and go do for all the data. What?
On this website like a dozen times a day, familiar with the statistics. And Ankit already covered like the pertinent stuff, which is India, with 4 times the population of the United States, has roughly the same number of new cases per day.
Yeah.
And 80 cases, 80 deaths per million.
Hold on a second. I think we're having a timeout from our
timeout for our attorney in Italy,
wait,
Roberto.
Wait a second. I know. I mean, I know you in the US. You love statistics, and I appreciate this. Although this was an old Italian comedian who used to compare statistics, used to explain statistics to people as the chicken science, where it means there are 2 persons and 1 chicken. One person eats a chicken, and then you have as a statistic that half a chicken goes to each of the 2 persons. Mm-hmm. So stats are always misguiding and misleading. I understand that you love this, and that baseball is based only on stats, which I usually love to hear, but make no sense. I mean, I mean, those numbers, I understand. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but, and by the way, I'm not a Trump supporter, but those numbers, I said, for example, India, do you really think that there are only 7 million infected people in India? Do you really think that this is by far a correct number?
No,
I mean,
I think what happens, Roberto, statistics and numbers are indicators. They're never exact, but they're indicators. And my question to you, counselor, if you looked through this data, and we can drop all the way down to Malaysia, which has 30 million people and 128 deaths, 30 million, 128, and you extrapolated all this data, would you give the United States an A+ ranking on how coronavirus is handled?
Yeah, okay.
A+.
My grade to Trump would be F,
yeah.
or Z. For as far as if it existed, it would be Z. So I mean the last, but not because of the. I mean, not based on the numbers. Actually, it's based on the conduct. I mean, he went around saying that it was less than a flu, that it would disappear with the sun, that I mean, that you can inject yourself anti-bleach to fight coronavirus, that he destroyed coronavirus, yes, because he got more basically pumped than a football player, than an NFL player or linesman, basically, with drugs and steroids and whatever, and that and all the others. I mean, the way he handled everything, which yes, it translates into numbers, but the way he approached the thing, the problem, that's problematic and scary, because if he does this for something this dangerous, how? And I mean, he approaches everything like this. I mean, he doesn't read. He doesn't understand most of the time. He cares only about how he looks. I mean, the scene. I mean, the scene. Him coming in with the helicopter into the White House, and going up to the stairs. it looks something like, I don't know, some guy in former USSR, which, I mean, I have seen similar footage from the guy from whatever, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, running around in the flames and jumping into into the deep water or whatever. So this is it, I mean, the way everything has been handled is absolutely problematic. I mean, the number is almost something which comes as a consequence of somebody going around and saying stupid things and doing stupid stuff.
Okay, well, you give him the grade F, but we'll turn to Rick Rosner, who's a more lenient grader, a big Trump supporter, as he said. All the people in LA support Trump. What grade would you give Trump in handling the coronavirus, Rick?
Just an F for past performance, but an F for current performance, where we still don't have a plan. We're still getting hit with 50 to 60,000 new cases in America a day, confirmed cases. And like you said, you can't trust the numbers. When I was a kid, there was a book called How to Lie with Statistics. And you can always, shuffle through the numbers and find the ones that best serve you. But Trump's latest strategy appears to be going for herd immunity. And we've only had between 3% and 16% of the population already infected with the virus. And we don't know because our testing is bad, which is another Trump failing. But to get to herd immunity, you would have to multiply the current number of cases by between 5 and 25 just to get the whole population infected to the point where you couldn't infect any more people, which means you'd have to multiply the current number of deaths, 220,000, by between 5 and 25, which means that Trump is looking at having between 1 million and 5 million dead Americans, which would make this the deadliest event in U.S. history, worse than the Civil War, worse than AIDS, worse than World War II, worse than the Spanish flu, possibly worse than all of those combined.
Okay, well, the thing is, it seems to me that we have 2 Fs, so he's not doing too well. Let's go to the South. Mark Lee. We know Southerners really support Trump, and you live in North Carolina. I have 2 Fs coming from Italy and Hollywood land, but, they're out over there. What grade would you give his handling of coronavirus?
Well, first off, I've got to say that this one little fact and everything, I was only a average student in college and everything, but I'm liking this whole concept of grading yourself. So I have now decided that I was on the dean's list at Marquette University. And I can tell you that I was nowhere near the dean's list, but I have decided to grade myself with the dean's list kind of grade. So I'm going to go there and claim that and everything. But in terms of Trump's grade and everything, I would give him actually an F minus. So I think that we're going to get
lower than an F.
That's right, lower than an F. An F minus, because what he's been doing has been ridiculous and everything. I'm seeing that he is definitely, collapsing a lot of things. And I know that there's some economics folks that may say that the economy is having some sort of bounce back or something like that. But I'm finding that is the folks at the higher end, his friends and some of his allies and things of that nature that are kind of like maybe pushing the economy in that way. But in terms of like everyday people, I know a lot of us are still waiting right here in the South for that stimulus package that is being held up in Congress, and there's no sign of relief. I just found out recently that the local utilities companies have actually stopped their COVID relief, so they're now get you on a payment plan because they were looking at those figures and seeing a lot of high figures, though they still want your money, but they'll get you on a payment plan, but you still have to pay astronomical amounts because it's been building up and all of that. And that's also happening with our landlords. Our small businesses and restaurants are in deep trouble. Our folks that, I'm a big passionate supporter of, which is our folks in the entertainment world, be that playwrights, be that musicians, be that actors, be that authors, and be that a number of other creatives, are not doing a lot of work right now because their venues are closed. So definitely a lot of our businesses are shut down. Matter of fact, I just had a gentleman on yesterday that is a business advocate, and he's out of the African American community. And I had heard figures that as many as 50% of the African American businesses could be totally shut down. He's actually thinking that it could be 70%. So that's just one industry. I've heard figures as high as 25% of the nation's restaurants could be going under as well. So when we're seeing those kind of figures, that's an F minus. As a matter of fact, I just changed it and let's give him an F minus minus. So I'm going to give him
F
double minus.
Okay, so I got one F, and one F double minus. Let's go to his friends in India. We know that Trump flew over to India, shook hands with Modi. The Indian people love Trump. And Kit, since you represent 1.3 billion people over in India, what is your vote on his handling of the coronavirus?
It all depends. I mean,
Great.
if you talk about people who are in businesses in the US, they are still supporting Trump. But on the other hand, people who are working in the tech industries in Bay Area and in New York, somewhere else, they are not supporting them as compared to the others. But what I can see is that, there are lack of policies to spread the virus, which we need to focus on, because Trump can't help you out in the testing phase, but he can definitely create a lot of policies to make sure that the spread is not there, which he did it. He never stopped the flights and all those stuff. And I think that is the cause of an extreme spreader. And on the other hand, I'm because as Rick said, they're struggling with the testing. People around the world, everyone is struggling with the testing. If you check out the numbers of past couple of days, we have seen tremendous rise in the cases in Italy, in Spain, in Germany, in all the countries. And I'm not sure, but I've read in the German newspaper last night that it's kind of a second wave or a disinfection, something going on in those countries, because something is not going good. And that is a strange cause of concern. And it's not related to politics, but everything is now related to politics because of the elections going on. But on the other end, we still respect to the chair, and the chair is with Trump, and then we have to make sure that he's doing the right things till the time he's president. And after that, you need to plan your policies and stuff like that with your new president, which is still, maybe 30 days down the line.
And your grade for him handling coronavirus? A plus, B, C, F. What's your grade for him handling coronavirus?
Political people can't handle coronavirus, so it's more about Fauci and other people. But as of now, it's minus for all the people around the world. It's not for Trump, but for India, for Italy. No one knows what to do. And in fact, we are following up with the vaccines in Oxford, in certain part of the other countries, the testing going on. But there is no news about the vaccine. In fact, I had a word with one of the doctors in India. I was curious to know what Trump took a vaccine. That vaccine is still in the trial, but I'm not sure. But my sources told me that Trump just take up that chance and use that vaccine it's kind of an antiviral something. But I think it's working for Trump. But you never know. But if you go to yesterday's report, you can see the changes in number of changes. See, Russia said that they have a vaccine. It's still growing with 15,000 or 14,000 cases every day. I don't know what the vaccine is doing with Russia. Spain, we have 11,000 plus cases. Argentina, we have Colombia. So everyone is growing. In fact, if you go to a little down with Italy, 7,000 cases. Germany, 6,000. So I think cases are coming back in all the countries. And if you check the total cases, 382,000 per day. The average last month was around 250. So cases growing on around the world with a tremendous rate, and we don't have a solution. And it's not a fault of politicians, but politicians is mostly not playing the right policies around the world, and I think they are not serious about the issue. But we don't have a medical or we don't have a pandemic team to manage those situations. So
can you scroll down to Malaysia, one of my favorite countries?
Yeah.
Let's go take a look at Malaysia.
So I'll check out the today's data, because I'm not sure about yesterday.
Yeah, I always talk about, because we have a show coming out of Malaysia, Sharif's School of Economics, and
small countries are always too good. If you talk about Malaysia,
they have 30 million, so they're kind of like the population of California. And I'm sure that California is very competitive with Malaysia. But we got to scroll down. There it is. There it is. Is that it? Yeah, Malaysia. Okay. Total deaths, 170 people out of 30 million. Now that they have a population of California with 130 million, a 30 million population, 170 deaths. Now, Rick, in California, is that all you have? Is 170 deaths like Malaysia?
100 times as many, or like 15,000 out of 40 million people. So we're running about, our death rate is about 80 times as high.
Okay, now would you say that that is successful in California, or would that be a failure relative to Malaysia?
It's a national failure. California, we're still locked. I mean, it's crazy. We're still locked down after 8 months, and we still have these horrible results. I'd like to give an overall grade to the world, which would be like an A- or a B+, where the U.S. has screwed it up. But the world as a whole, we're looking at barely over 1 million total deaths. And you compare this to Spanish flu 102 years ago, which when the world was a third the size it is now in population, they had 50 million deaths.
Right.
Apocalyptic. It was like it approached the Black Death in 1918. And this time around, most of the world is doing something right.
Right. Yeah. And see, as we go to the demographics here with South Korea, for example, I'd have to check their population, but they only have 439 deaths. Greece has a population about 10 million, 469 deaths. So as we look at some of these countries, obviously Malaysia being very successful, Norway has a population about 5 million, and they have 278 deaths. And the problem that I have is the great USA does have a greater population, but look at the amount of deaths that they have. I mean, it's incredible.
If we can compare that with the airline traffic, you will have an answer, because the more airline traffic the country have, the more death or the more cases they have.
Yeah, and Rakisha's just arrived from Hong Kong. Can we go take a look at Hong Kong?
Let me find out Hong Kong.
Then I'll bring Rakisha in, because you got to keep scrolling down, I guess, to find Hong Kong.
Yeah,
Hong Kong is here, right here.
What Hong Kong
and everything.
Okay, Hong Kong.
Yeah, while you find in Hong Kong, I'm curious from Roberto as well as Ankit. I know one of the things that's going on here, and Rakesh has joined us as well, so maybe he's got some thoughts on this as well, is that here in North Carolina and in a couple of other places that I've been seeing on the news and everything, their restaurants are opening, a couple of other things are opening, and folks aren't necessarily following the rules in terms of socially distancing and doing other things that have been encouraged by the WHO and the CDC. So are y'all seeing that where you are, Roberto? I mean, you're in Italy, and Italy is definitely known for partying and socializing and things of that nature. So are folks actually going to the restaurants and keeping the distance that they're supposed to, or are they actually not doing that? Because I think that that's part of the reason of what's happening in North Carolina and throughout the United States is a number of folks are actually going to these spaces and not keeping their spaces separated. They're not wearing their masks. They're doing a number of other things. I also understand that in some of those countries, and it may even be yours, Roberto, and Rakisha's, that there are some significant fines. And I mean significant fines compared to what we're being given. So definitely, could you talk a little bit about how y'all are doing in terms of like actually separating people? I'd love to hear that.
Well, I mean, I was pretty amazed the response of the Italians, because I thought that we don't like rules, and I'm from the south, so we definitely don't like rules. But the scenes we have seen at the beginning of the crisis in North Italy have basically scared everybody to death. So we are doing almost fine now. We're back to having mandatory masks on, also on the streets, not only inside. And most of the people is also in Naples, where I'm from, where just to make an example, in Naples, I mean, in Italy, we have mandatory. You have to wear mandatory a helmet when you are on a motorbike.
Okay.
And also actually on a bike. In Naples, there's still 25% of the bike drivers, of the riders, which don't have any kind of protection, and the law is something like 20 years old. So we are in Naples. We are very, very slow to basically enforce some laws. And I was in Naples 2 days ago, and most of the people on the streets have the mask. we had a, let's call it a problem, which is actually not something which was problem. It was a problem for COVID purposes, but it was natural because that's the way Italians behave. It's when bars reopened, most of the youngsters, and I mean, the narrative was it's not a disease for young people, and you shouldn't actually care because you're young. So most of the young people started to gather and have parties, have drinks, and so on and so on. And then we have this tradition, as most Latin countries, where you don't actually go to a pub and you stay indoor, you stay outdoors most of the time.
Yeah.
So we had a couple. I mean, we had a couple of we had mostly younger people gathering, but nowadays bars and restaurants are pretty. We, for example, I went yesterday. I think it's the fourth or fifth time since lockdown ended. I went out for dinner, and the restaurant was almost more than a quarter. Let's say only a quarter was of the table was occupied. So we are doing. I mean, we are doing very well. I mean, we are doing very well. We are doing decently actually. But going back to numbers, for example, also the numbers of the deaths. I mean, I don't want to seem downgrading, downstating, or negating anything. But in order to do all this, have talks about numbers, you have to have some numbers which are, I mean, the same more or less, or which have the same principle. For example, in Italy, we don't make any difference whether you're dead because of the coronavirus, or the person is dead having also coronavirus.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. I mean, to make an example, if somebody was terminally ill with cancer, for example, and he contracts coronavirus, it's not necessarily he's not this person doesn't necessarily is dead because of coronavirus, but because he was already terminally ill.
Yeah.
And then we count them this. We don't make any difference. So the number of effective people which died because of coronavirus is, I think, lower than the one of actually
Multi-disease.
which in other countries in Europe only declare as a coronavirus that, for example, in Belgium, they only declare that the person died for coronavirus if they test the dead after the death, and the only cause was coronavirus. So in some cases they don't do any kind of
Yeah.
testing. So even if somebody died for coronavirus, it doesn't show in the statistics. So I understand it's confusing, but you have to have a common way to basically extract the numbers. Otherwise, it will be in China, for example. In China, there's a lot of the number of Chinese deaths. It's way below the reality, because the Chinese government has declared something, but we don't know how they basically based their numbers and how they actually came out with this number.
True.
I don't know if
I completely agree. In fact, I'm also curious to know that how we are decomposing those bodies, and how we are decomposing those PP kits and all those stuff, because there is no policy as such, and every country and every government or every medical institute or hospitals, they have a different policy. They're not following the right policies, and which is very important, because a lot of stuff have been used for COVID patients and we don't know how to decompose them, and that also could be a cause of spreading, because I mean, a lot of people are taking care of that garbage and making sure that it should go at a place, but still, I mean, it gets a lot of infection. And in India, we have a different way to give the final rights to the people who died as compared to the Western world. But it's still there is no policy as such. And then also in India, if a person is struggling from some other illness or a multi-disease or something else, that case is not counted as coronavirus. And most importantly, it's a big country. It's difficult for us to test everyone. We haven't tested our 1% of the population as of now. If you check out the test rates, we have never tested 1% of the people in India. We have done a lot of tests, but because of 1.3 billion population, it's difficult. So a lot of people they are just quarantining themselves at home, and after 17 days they are going out, and they don't have symptoms. And if they have symptoms, then they go out and get them tested. But still, the number is pretty low. But we don't know. But my concern is that we know that wearing a mask and taking the right precautions can definitely help you stay away and prevent yourself from coronavirus. But people around the world don't understand that. And also, I don't know, but a lot of countries have started tourism, which is, I know, the industry is not doing good, but if you openly start tourism without any protocols and such like that, because we have seen a lot of videos around the world, and I don't know, why everyone knows that it spreads because of people, and then we are telling people to go out and enjoy and follow your travel path and all those things. I don't understand that. It's a basic, simple knowledge, and I think government is focusing on economy, and they're not focusing on people who run the economy. And that's the gap I think we need to fulfill. But I think
Rick had a point that he wanted to make as well, and I was going to find out what that was and everything. But one of the things I was just going to add before turning it over to Rick was that the other thing that's happening with the virus that I think is impacting a lot of us is that because we're all in our residence and homes, whether that's a home or an apartment or whatever, we're losing touch in some ways with a lot of the community, except for through the internet and things of that nature. Like I just recently found out that a professor from one of our local universities had recently passed away, but I didn't find this out till recently, and I'm not even sure to this day whether it was COVID or not COVID related. But in the past, I would have been out and about. He was actually a well-known and well-respected and loved professor in their theater department, and I probably would have heard about Johnny Austin's passing before now, but I just recently learned, like maybe about 2 or 3 days ago, and he's been passed now for several weeks. So like I said, I think that a lot of this is also impacting our social life and the way that we're learning about things, both in terms of life and death. So I'm sure there are even some births that I've missed as well. So I'd love to hear Rick's thoughts, and I did see that Rick had raised his hand, so I'm just going to add that to what we've been talking about as well.
I was just going to pick up on a couple of things we maybe have moved on from, but like the masks. A third of the U.S. population views masks as tyranny or not masculine because Trump was so reluctant to wear masks for the first 6 months of COVID. And people have a theory that's because he wears this bronzer, this orange makeup on his face, and some people think he didn't want to wear a mask because it would show up on the mask and make it more obvious he's wearing makeup. But for whatever reason, he didn't like wearing masks, and we eventually, I'm hoping if we get a different president, he'll make a more effective case for everybody. If everybody in America wore a mask for a month, you can go. We could knock down the case numbers by 90%. The other point is, who to count as having died from COVID. Trump supporters in the U.S. say that only 6% of that 220,000 confirmed dead should be counted because 94% had comorbidities, had pre-existing conditions. And then people on the left say, well, that's ridiculous. Those people may have had diabetes or been overweight or been 60 years old or whatever, but they wouldn't have died if they hadn't got COVID. Eventually they would have, but people have estimated that even though 80% of the people in the U.S. who've died from COVID are age 65 or older, the average person who died lost 10 years of life. Without COVID, they would have gone on an average of 10 years.
The only real way to count the deaths for coronavirus is at the end of the year, when we will have the statistics and we will have the difference between the deaths of 2019 and 2020. That's the only way to have a sense of what really coronavirus, how much people, and not even how much people, but the difference between a normal year and the COVID year. And that's the only real comparison you can do, because if we go and that's I mean, I don't like the fact that we have a high number of deaths, but that's the only way to basically declare to make a number is to say whether or not, as you said, whether or not you died for or with you're counted into the statistics. Otherwise, you have to mean you have to go case by case and say, okay, he was so that coronavirus is only one supplemental illness he got, he or she got, and which is instrumental or not for the death. So it's
Roberto,
something which is impossible to do.
Yeah, Roberto, you said something earlier that really caught my attention and everything, and I want to get to Rakesh as well, because I did see Rakesh had his hands up and everything. But Roberto, you said earlier that you were required to wear masks both in the house as well as when you're out in the public in Italy, and we don't really see that here in the United States as much. Definitely, you're required to wear it, or they ask you to wear it when you go out of the business, when you go outside, and definitely if you're in your business. But I've never heard of a country that was requiring it in the house as well. So was that something that I heard correctly, that they're requiring this mask to be worn in the house as well?
Well, if I'm in a room with somebody who is not a direct, I mean, it's not direct family and doesn't live with me, actually, I'm supposed to wear the mask also if I visit my parents, since they're not living with me. If there is no social distancing in house, in the office, for example, the guys in my office, which are in the floor below mine, because I'm on the partners floor, but below mine, if they are in more than one in the room, they have to wear mask.
Okay.
And now, I mean, this was mandatory from the beginning, where there is no social distancing, which means on transport. For example, if you travel by train, you have to wear the mask for the entire travel, which can be very painful, I can say, because 3-4 hours with the mask in a train can be absolutely painful. But that's the law, and now we shifted also to outside, which means wherever you cannot social distance, you have to wear a mask. And the fine goes from 400 euros to 1,000 euros. And actually, as usual, some fines have been assessed in a let's say comical way, because a guy was actually having a break from his a cook of a restaurant was having a rest from work, and basically he went out and it was smoking, and police basically gave him a ticket for not wearing the mask because he was smoking with another colleague. And so there was a huge discussion whether somebody. I know that in California, for example, you can't smoke outside, so it would be easier for California. But in Italy, you basically on the road, on the street, you can smoke easily. I mean, that's the only way you're actually allowed to smoke. So.
Gotcha. Rakesh, I know you were going to ask something.
Yeah, I think the masks are the critical strategy. And I'm an outsider. I've been living in Hong Kong only for 7 years. Before the SARS virus, I was there before me, so I don't know how it was at that time. But I've seen most of the people in Hong Kong always wear a mask if they step out of the house. Even if I go to throw out some garbage, which is on the main road, I wear a mask. Everybody wears a mask all the time. They're outside the house. Within the house, because it's just me and my wife, we don't wear a mask. But outside the house, we always wear a mask. Even if the rule is, even in your own car, you're supposed to wear the mask. So that's the rule. What happens actually is that within the car, I just take it off because we have the AC on and the windows are closed. But if it was a situation where I had the windows down, I would put on a mask.
Actually, one funny thing is that in Italy, if you're on a motorbike, you're allowed not to wear the mask, But if you have a passenger, then you have to have both you and your passenger have to wear the mask
It makes sense.
on a motorbike. I mean,
in fact, in India, I mean, if you're traveling with more than two people in the car or maybe on the motorbike, you have to wear a mask. Initially, when people were driving alone, they are not wearing a mask. But then there is no mandatory. But the rule is that if you put down your, window down, you are prone to a lot of people because it's a populated country and everyone is just, driving next to you. So make sure that you wear a mask. So a lot of tickets have been thrown up and then people have started following it. But still, a lot of people are not following the right rules and they're not wearing masks. In fact, they don't understand that we have to change our mask as well, which is no one talks about it. If you are wearing a mask for suppose like 2 days or 1 day, you have to keep on changing your mask. You can't use the same mask again and again. I mean, there is no awareness about that. And also, when you go to a medical institution, you have a separate mask as compared to what you wear on a normal day, because that's what doctor mentioned in India, that make sure that if you are visiting a medical institution, you have to have a different mask which is more secure, and on normal days you can wear a mask which is good enough. But for India, I mean, if you are in your family bubble, you don't have to wear a mask. But if someone comes outsider at your home, at your office, you have to make sure that you are wearing a mask, because you don't know what that person is and how. But generally, people are not following that also, and that is also a cause of concern, because that also spread a lot of things. And when Roberto, you mentioned about the cook thing, what happened is that in a neighborhood in capital of India, one of the restaurants, they have like 70 waiters who were corona positive, and they were super spreaders to more than 20,000 people.
Wow.
And they were just serving the food and stuff like that, and that happened within a period of 1 week. So no one has that policy, or no one has that case study, or no one knows what's happening, but that's the cause of concern. In fact, when you also mentioned about if we can check out the population at the end of the year, there was a stat released from one of the Chinese media that they have stopped 2 million SIM cards in China during this COVID period. So if the SIM card is not working, what's happening? And in fact, there was a news from Taiwan that Taiwan or someone supplied around 2 million or maybe more than that body bags to China. So there's a lot of
you're basically saying that. And actually, that's a very clever point. That in China, everybody has a phone. So if you have 2 million contracts less in China, it means that you have at least 2 million deaths.
Obviously. But there is no news about the death, but there are news about SIM cards, there are news about body bags, and there's a couple of other news. But you won't believe, we tried to reach out to a lot of Chinese people during this time, people who are from mainland. No one wants to talk about it because, they're restricted. So they can't talk about it.
Yeah. What about hand hygiene? Here, hand hygiene is a big thing. I carry a little alcohol spray. So every time I go in the lift and press a button, I spray my hand with alcohol. Is that happening anywhere else in the world?
It's happening in India as well. Yeah,
a lot of the United States for some people.
They are using some tea or some metal to make sure that they are away from it. Or maybe a toothpick is good enough, because toothpick you can just throw it away whenever you are.
I did check out South Korea during my little break. 51 million population, total corona deaths 438. California, about 40 million population, less population, 16,752 deaths. So by any metric, what bothers me is, why is South Korea, Malaysia, Japan, New Zealand, Australia all beating the pants out of the United States of America? Rick, you're a smart guy. You should know the answer.
Two things. For countries like South Korea, they did the right thing early. They locked down early. They still do it. Contact tracing. They cut it under control before it could, spread extensively. And also they've got a culture where less ruggedly individualistic. People were cool with masks even before COVID. And then countries like New Zealand were lucky because they got hit a little later And, countries like Italy were very unlucky because they were among the earliest countries to get hit before anybody knew exactly what to do.
Mhm.
By the time it gets to New Zealand, plus New Zealand has excellent leadership. Somebody did statistics on countries led by women have done much better against COVID than
Right.
Germany in Europe, for example.
Iceland, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yes.
so.
Right.
England had
Me-
a month or so to get ready, and then they did everything right when they got hit.
But may I say something about masks? Just one thing. I think we all agree. It's necessary. It's important. It's whatever you want, but it's painful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the most tedious and annoying thing ever. I mean, half of the time, if you wear glasses, half of the time you fog your glasses.
Right.
It goes in your eyes. I have a beard, so every time it moves, I get my beard in my mouth. I can't breathe because I basically I don't breathe with the nose, and actually the other thing is that if the other it's not just wear a mask, but the other actually the other thing which should be told: if you wear a mask, wear the bloody mask. I mean, nose and mouth have to be covered. People who goes around with the mask over here like this. I mean, this makes no sense.
Right.
And the other thing to tell people is that if you're not social distancing and you're wearing the mask, it's because you're wearing the mask because you can't social distance. So when you speak to another person, you don't take out the mask and
Right.
speak to the other person. So, but then again, I think we all agree that.
But also they say eye protection helps also as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Robert, there is a little mask I saw it today. A young girl was wearing it. Just covers this much, and it will probably help you. I don't know. I haven't seen it very often. It just covered exactly her nose and her mouth, and I think you might find that it is a white mask made of leather with holes in it, and I think it's got a filter behind it. But it's a little mask which might help you. I just saw it today. It's for the first time. So when you mentioned that, I thought I just dropped.
No, I've tried it, but it's still painful.
Is it?
I don't know what to say. Where it's painful, but it's still painful.
Fair enough. I don't know.
Also, one of our doctors recommended quercetin if you do happen to get coronavirus as a possible way to mitigate the effects, and he's actually used it successfully. This is Dr. Moskowitz. He's on our Medical Friday. Went to Harvard Medical School, and has treated patients. He's an active physician, and quercetin actually shows up as number 7 in the IBM Summit supercomputer as a possible treatment for coronavirus. His angst is that there are no studies done in this area because guess what? This is just a vitamin supplement, and there's no way you can monetize on it. So this ends up in the trash can. And so the only ones I've seen actually are from Thailand, and one in Nashville, Tennessee is doing a study on it, all coming out with positive results. But major pharma, big pharma, is not interested because, hey, look, if it is a good treatment for coronavirus, you can't make any money selling this stuff. You can go buy it in your drugstore. So he's a little bit antsy about that. And I just wanted to pass that on to my panel. I actually bought some because when this first took place, I was going, nobody's giving any solutions to this.
Hey, Nick, we just had a great solution yesterday. You need to go back and watch the online dinner party. But Tawanda Wilson, who is a wellness person out of North Carolina, she actually lives in Cary, but she just came back from a book tour where Ricky is in California. But she was actually suggesting magnesium, which I know we've also talked about here as well, and also a very vital fact, whether you're fighting coronavirus or whether you're fighting the flu as well, which is most of us, including most of us here on this panel, don't get enough rest. So she also recommended that rest is something that we also need to concentrate on as well. Because like I said, she's done a lot of research around action steps and things that we can do. And she's written a book about that now.
Yeah. Yes. Rick.
Well, the problem with hitting a virus, it's like flu versus polio, for instance. Well, I don't know, is polio a virus? Anyway, the deal is like bacteria, strep throat. You were a kid. When I was a kid, if I got strep throat, they jabbed me with a needle full of penicillin and I'd be all the way better 12 hours later. Because it's a bacillus, it's a bacteria. But viruses, you have all these things that probably help, but none of them help very much. Like you were talking about Coricidin. People like to talk, some people, conservatives like to talk about hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir, the steroid dexamethasone, and all of these knock down mortality by, maybe 20 to 30 to, if you're lucky, 40%. None of them are that 100% super cure virus. So right now I'm thinking there are probably at least a dozen drugs that if, depending on your symptoms, how sick you are, the doctors might want to hit you with, or that you might want to try on your own. And most of them work some, none of them knock it out all the way.
Right. Yeah, and the one treatment that Trump got cost $100,000 and is not available for you.
Yeah, it's been given to only 10 people in America.
Right. So unfortunately, this leads to another problem that exists in the future, is the compartmentalization of medical care in the United States. In other words, if you're wealthy, you can afford Regeneron and you can afford the best doctors in the world, and everything's good. But if you're poor, you can't afford it, and you end up in the end up in the cemetery hole. So this could be another social problem going into the United States, frankly, around the world. Healthcare is not going to be uniform and equal around the world. We're going to see different. If you have the money, you can afford better healthcare, frankly, and if you don't, you're not going to be able to afford it. I think it exists already, because over 1 million people a year die of malaria in Africa. Yet it's technically should not.
In India, we have I don't have the numbers right now, but there are more people died due to car accidents in India annually as compared to coronavirus, which happened this year. So so the stats are saying that a lot of people saved their life because of lockdown, and they're not traveling. So because the numbers are growing. Because everyone wants to drive the vehicle, and there are a lot of car accidents happening in India, and those people are saved their life. But alternatively, a lot of people leave us because of the COVID. But I'll show you one of the glasses which is in hot demand on the internet with the mask thing, which people who don't want to wear masks. So this is the.
Oh, this is for Roberto then.
Yeah.
What if there was a face shield that could help you break this habit? This is Block. It's designed to be easily worn like glasses. Block covers your eyes, nose, and mouth, the main pathways where infections enter your body. It works as a barrier when you subconsciously reach for these parts, and draws your attention whenever you fall into your habits. Block's ergonomic design provides a comfortable fit whether you wear glasses, a mask, or both. It allows for proper airflow, making Block suitable when you go for a run, and also works as a wind deflector when you ride your bike. While ensuring functionality, it doesn't compromise style, so you can feel comfortable wherever you go. Block is reusable. Simply wash it thoroughly with soap water and dry with soft cotton. Although it's not designed for healthcare or laboratory settings, Block is made of clear polycarbonate, a durable material used to make protective goggles. The prototypes are finished, and the tooling has begun. What's left is your support to bring Block to life. Stay safe, and let's block the spread.
Well, that's pretty neat. I've never seen that product before, Ankit. So, Roberto, we have your solution only on IBM TV, the Block. So you don't have to worry about face mask anymore. You can either wear that or you can wear the Darth Vader uniform, which is coming out this Halloween. So you'll have your choice. But yeah, that seems to be a unique product. Where'd you find that, Ankit? You find
It's
that
all over internet. It's all over internet, and everyone is the.
Before. I forget where it might have been on YouTube or something like that, but I've actually seen it as well. But I agree, we either need Darth Vader or maybe we need what Rick's got. We all need Captain America to come and rescue us and everything.
Captain America will come and rescue us. Yep. So,
but I just wanted to mention one more point, Nick, which is very interesting. That countries who are doing very politics related to COVID, they have more cases as compared to countries who are just working on the solution, like New Zealand and other countries. So I think countries with more political and media things going on, they have more cases of COVID. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're doing very poorly here. We have the most expensive healthcare system in the world. $3 trillion is spent in healthcare in the United States, which exceeds the GDP of Italy many times over, Roberto. And we burn it. Listen, we just burn that on healthcare. Okay, and to have such a very expensive healthcare system and have an abject failure, is just mind-boggling to watch the numbers come in. The numbers are poor. Now, part of it has to deal with our leadership because we did have a pandemic team at one time. So when Rick mentions, hey, South Korea mobilized like an army to stop the pandemic. So then New Zealand, of course, followed, Japan, Malaysia, and everybody lockstep stop it. They had hardly any deaths. The United States, what's this all about? In other words, you're going to stop our freedoms. What do you mean I can't go out and party tonight? What do you mean that I have to wear a mask? What do you mean I have to do anything different? And so what happens, we have 215,000, now I think it's over 222, but the data shows from the University of Washington that keeps data tracks on this, that we're going to hit 400,000 by January. Now, when it was around 1,200, because I remember Ankit and I were doing the show in March, I said, we're going to go over 200,000 by September, and we did. I said, look, the data just shows, plus the behavior, plus the Washington statistics show that we're going to hit those numbers. Well, everything I see right now, we're going to hit that 400,000 mark in January. There's nothing that would stop it. We're already seeing the increase. We're already seeing we don't want to not have a party tonight. And everybody here is treating it like there's nothing. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people are treating it like it doesn't exist. There was a Rose Garden party. I don't know, Rick, if you saw this, right? Yeah. This Rose Garden party. What the heck was this all about? I mean, what sort of message does that send? And Kamala Harris had a chance to slam dunk. Who was that guy? The guy with the fly on his head. Okay, I know. He had a chance to slam dunk the guy with the fly on his head, and she didn't do it. I was going like, lady, speak up about the Rose Garden party. Look at what's going on. Look at the example that you're setting to the rest of the world. Hey, go out and have a bloody party. Ignore it like it's no tomorrow. And of course, now tons of people got infected by it. What a surprise. Yeah, Rick.
This is going to be the scariest Halloween ever. It's in 2 weeks, and people are going to have parties. And that's going to add to that uptick to shooting towards 400,000 U.S. deaths.
Yeah, I have a skeleton out in my front yard. I'm going to put coronavirus, or maybe I'll put Trump's coronavirus. I don't know yet. The thing is,
in Italy, you can have parties only with. You can basically have home parties with only 7. No, actually 7 or 6. No, you have maximum. You can have in-house with maximum 7 persons. if you
Yeah.
no 6 persons, the seventh it will be illegal. There are a lot of memes which are going around. One is fantastic. It's a pizza delivery done by the Carabinieri saying, "Oh, we are delivering 7 pizzas," which means you're basically having an illegal party at your place. So
Right.
if you have, for example, if you have 5 kids, you're basically already illegal.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've just seen the responses of other countries. We had Willie Hill, an Australian contingent. They have like 800 total deaths in Australia with a population around 24 million. So everywhere I go, Roberto, I see the United States and Europe. Not all countries. Germany seems to be pretty serious about it, but a lot of the countries, they're just not serious about it. In other words, it's like, hey, okay, so it's acceptable mortality, and we're the worst, and then the other countries are following, and it's just not a good example. Yeah.
If I may, this brings actually you made a great point. I grew up with an idea of what freedom and liberties are and whatever, and sometimes when I hear that, I have people claiming that it's a dictatorship because somebody is basically asking me to wear a mask. It kind of it makes me I mean it makes me a little bit worry about people thinks on what really freedom means. I mean the basic point is there's been a dilution of the concept of freedom, where freedom has become basically an idea that I can do whatever I will, and I don't have to. I mean, I don't have to follow any rule or any law. I mean, freedom is what I can do within the rules, within the law, not that I can do whatever I want. I don't know if you agree. I mean, I know that Americans have a different idea of freedom, but
Well, yeah, we were a country of cowboys,
mhm.
which you can't have a third of a billion cowboys, each being a rugged. In the 80s, it was Rambo. Everybody thought they were Rambo. And it creates social problems.
Yeah, but I mean, also, I mean, the idea of, I mean, that freedom is, I mean, that not wearing a mask exemplifies what my freedom of my freedom of speech, my freedom of that's mm, I was going to say a bad word. That's let's say in English, rubbish. I mean, not wearing a mask. It's not something which and constitutes my freedom. It's a. I mean, there's a it should be in Italy. There is a law, and you follow the bloody law. It's not a matter of freedom, not free. It's a matter of Democrats, not or left. And the idea of left in America. Let's talk about the idea of left in America. I mean, left in America is really the left hand. Not. I mean, there's no way near to the left of Europe. But then again, it's not wearing a mask or going around thinking that Earth is flat. That's not freedom. That's rubbish. Let's say.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah, and eventually they will have better treatments. Eventually they're going to have a vaccine. So it's not like this is going to go on forever, but it
No.
does seem to be a big problem that we have, at least here in this country, to do that. And also we abandoned our pandemic team, where South Korea had to face SARS. I believe President Trump in 2018 abandoned a pandemic response team that also stopped Ebola virus from coming here, which was more dangerous. And we have a whole documentary on IBM TV about the Ebola virus and how it was actually stopped and how the pandemic team worked. And South Korea, they've always had a pandemic team because of SARS and some other the H1N1 viruses, et cetera. So South Korea, Japan, most of the Pan-Asian countries quickly mobilized to stop the coronavirus because they've had experience with this before. The United States of America, who abandoned their pandemic team, purportedly the greatest healthcare system in the world, purportedly the largest economy in the world, didn't have a response to this. And so what happens is, Roberto, they just said, here it comes. And even today, it's not like, hey, we failed, we're going to learn from it. Even today, we've seen the failure. Look at the Rose Garden. Come on. All the data was out about mask, social distancing, being vigilant in stopping the coronavirus. And our leaders in Washington, D.C. came together and partied like there was, it's like 2001. Totally blowing off the fact that this is dangerous. Now, here's what I think is going to happen in these polls, at least what I've seen from the demographics coming in from the election, okay, and the early voting. There's going to be, whether they like it or not, a blue wave. Okay, there's going to be a new president. Okay, I just don't. And all the when Sasha gets on, he shows the betting in London. They always bet on the president. By the way, if you want to bet on who's going to win, go to London. They actually have a whole betting sequence there. But what?
The odds are too low. I mean, it's not convenient actually anymore.
Yeah, I know. Right.
I got Trump last time. I bet it on Trump because I thought if he's going to win, I'm going to win, and I wouldn't be very sorry about the fact that Hillary Clinton lost. If he's going to lose, I will be happy that Hillary Clinton won. So my idea was,
so you hedged,
and at the end, I think 5 times.
Right.
So,
so you hedged your bet by betting on Trump. So if he won,
exactly.
And you knew the disaster was going to happen, at least you got paid for it. That's
exactly.
Pretty good. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But the minute he got coronavirus, all bets were taken off, and now it's astronomical. In other words, in favor of Biden. The real thing that may occur is the blue wave takes the Senate, and then you have a Democratic Senate, Democratic House, and a Democratic presidency. Rick, what do you think about that? The Democrats sweep.
We had that in 2000 when Obama came in 2009, and the Republicans are still going to. It's not a ticket to getting everything fixed. It didn't fix everything in 2009 through 2011. All we got was Obamacare,
right?
And we won't get everything we want as liberals, even if we control the House, the Senate, and the White House.
Mm-hmm.
It will certainly be better than the current. The current administration is the most incompetent in history, but it won't make all our wishes come true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mark, what do you see about this blue wave that may take place? All the numbers I'm seeing is it's going to happen. There's only 3 seats more for them to take the Senate, and all of a sudden you have what they call the blue wave, and the Democrats take the House, Senate. They sweep, as they would say in sports.
I see that it probably will happen, and that's actually what I'm seeing as well in terms of the figures that I'm seeing and the way that things are breaking out right now. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is something that Rick just alluded to, which is that a number of folks, they talk about like the difference that exists on the political front between, say, the liberals and the conservatives, but none of the liberals or the progressive side is always unified. And I think that's kind of what happened with Obama, because Obama, in my mind, was one of the most activist presidents we've ever had, because he was an activist in Chicago and an activist in a number of other places. But a lot of the activist community felt that he was going to come in and make sweeping activism kind of changes. But I don't know that they necessarily understood the way that the political system works, because there are forces that exist, whether that's the lobbies, whether that's a number of other things that stop those activism agendas from happening. So I do know that there are a number of very extreme I won't call them extreme, but more farther to the left kind of activists that were disappointed even in Obama's 2 administrations, because they felt that he didn't do enough, whether that was in African-American politics, African-American causes, or in a number of other causes. But then when I've had conversations with them, a lot of times they didn't always understand the way the political game works, and that there are ways that gets stopped, unfortunately, because of the way the system is built. So I think that folks might have expected more than they actually got.
Ankit, are you following the American politics over in India, or the Indian people, they just don't really care?
every second news is about American politics and about senators and stuff like that. And because of the social media and because of our bigger population in Indians in America, people know what's happening, and I think it's a blue wave. But also on the other end, I'm curious to know what are the Biden plans for COVID, because he would be the president for next term, but the concern is how he will protect Americans from COVID, because we still don't have a vaccine, and can he make sure that everyone will wear masks, including Biden, because we have to set examples and we need more heroes, and those heroes should wear masks, because that's what we want, and that's how we can create a lot of things. In fact, I tell you one more fact that for Ebola, we took around 4 to 5 years to get the vaccine on the block. So you can imagine. We don't have vaccine. It's been almost close to 1 year, because it started in December, and we don't know what's happening. So it's difficult. But I have one more solution for COVID, because a lot of tools available during the COVID era. So this is what I wanted to share with the audience.
Okay.
Right. You don't have to touch anything. You just have to use some equipment and make sure that you are aware from the COVID situation.
Germs, viruses, microbes, and bacteria on that door, but they're there. Meet Hooky. Hooky is an antimicrobial, no-touch keychain tool. It creates a
It's doing that. Yeah, it's doing that spinning around thing. It's done that to me a couple of times too.
Yeah,
But those things happen. It sounds like an interesting tool.
yeah.
Sounds like it's very interesting too. We're going to bring that back up and everything. By the way, I was just going to make one quick announcement, because I heard that, well, one, I saw we have another guest, which is our good friend Wynn has joined the party. So definitely glad to see that Wynn has joined the party in her truly amazing show that she has on a regular basis. But I just heard from Zach on one of our other social media outlets. He did just come back from voting. He did it earlier this morning, and he said that the line was about a block long, and it took him about 45 minutes to get through the line in order to vote. So that was on day one of early voting here, and that was what happened here in Durham, North Carolina. So just letting folks know that those lines are existing, because it took him about 45 minutes. But glad to see you, Win. Glad to see that you have joined the podcast this Thursday, and you've got amazing podcast, because you've got some crazy amount of downloads and everything. So I know that you oftentimes talk about that. I think that you had was it 60,000 or something like that, and that you're going for 400 a day?
It was 60,000.
Me too. He can get to business on the bus.
On my own podcast, I'll be interested to see the statistics on IMTV, because I just interviewed someone last week for IMTV, a friend of mine, and I am trying to get someone in for next week, otherwise it will be me talking about women's empowerment with cerebral palsy. And I no, this has been a wild ride in a good way. And thank you, Kat, for allowing me to join the body here as a host. I never imagined that. And people, when I tell them I'm now a internationally known journalist on YouTube, people are like, what? You are what? And so I'm like, yeah, because all I did was plant a seed. All I did was come on Mind Closet 101 twice as main guest, and then once recently as a panelist, and then you guys took it from there, and I'm incredibly honored and incredibly grateful. And not a Monday morning goes by that I won't sit at my desk. And now, granted, my desk will be changing, but not a Monday morning goes by that I don't see that intro, and it makes me want to cry every single time I say it, because the fact that you guys let me on was unbelievable.
Yeah, but you're doing a great
But
job. Your
I think
show is
on this note, I would like to play a Vince intro for Win with Vince. So here we go.
Hey, Ankit, speaking of intros, and I don't know if we still have it or if you've got access to it on your dashboard and everything, but we also have another amazing show. Although I'm actually going to tease Roberto because they do a wine show that'll be coming our way on Friday.
Right.
Of that nature, and unfortunately, they don't have any wines from Italy, so we need to get Roberto to smuggle them some wine from Italy so they can feature that as well. You might want to play the wine show.
No, I will play something for the wine thing as well. So here we go for the wine.
A great show, and definitely they're coming back. And like I said, they're on Fridays on a regular basis, and they're doing some great things and everything. Win, you'll be glad to know that I've got two powerful women that are getting ready to come on the radio show with Mark Lee. So we've got Jess Everhart that will be joining us on this coming week on Monday. So in a few days from now, she's a leading entrepreneur, has been involved with Google startups and a number of other things along that line. And then on the day before election, I've got T. Naomi Lucas, who has got a company called Southern Wicked Lemonade, which is now in the hand sanitizer business, but they were actually a liquor company that was started here in North Carolina as well. But she is a leading entrepreneur. So both of them are entrepreneurs out of here and women advocates and women business owners. So be looking for those shows, and I'll be definitely trying to bring you on to that as well so that you can talk and meet these young ladies.
Yeah, you can also send them my way, and I'll give it them more plus, and to give you guys a little bit of perspective as to what's going on in my neck of the woods as far as COVID. The numbers have increased, and due to there was a wedding party of 70 people out here, and some of them had COVID, which doesn't help. And then the county where I'm in isn't necessarily reporting all the COVID cases. I just found that out this morning, like before I joined you guys. So that's always fun when you find that out that your own county isn't reporting COVID, and it's like, oh, great, and so I'm like, oh, great, here we go, and then what scares me is the increases in COVID out here, where I am located in a huge tourist mecca. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I know you've been having a lot of things, and we were talking about that, about how a lot of things aren't being reported. I think that that's going on around the world and everything. Rick, are you seeing a number of folks that are not reporting in California and some of the cities and counties and things of that nature? Or does it look like the reports are actually being accurate from what you're seeing, Rick?
California, especially LA, looks pretty good. It's reporting is like everything else. It's political, and there are certain states, Georgia, Florida, that are notorious for playing games with their statistics. The Trumpier the state, the less likely they are to accurately and fully report.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. One of the other things, Nick, that I was curious about is we're talking about some of the shows that exist. And by the way, I've been watching you and Bill Tresvant and The Lawyer's Den. So I know The Lawyer's Den has been having some great conversations around the Supreme Court nominee and those hearings. I've actually watched a couple of days of it. I did not watch yesterday, and I haven't watched so far today, but I did watch like a little bit on Monday and a little bit on Tuesday. And I did see how each side was individually trying to frame the conversation in a certain way. Like I said, the Democrats were all about trying to protect the ACA and Affordable Care Act, and definitely the Republicans are trying to make it seem as if the Democrats are pushing her on religious rights and other things along that line. So I did see that a lot of them are trying to frame the conversations in whatever way they want to frame it. But it seems to me that it's almost a given that she's going to be appointed. I'm not a big fan of Amy Coney Barrett, but I definitely see that it looks like she's going to be appointed. And my reason for not being a big fan is I agree with what you said, that she's definitely got a lot of scholarship and a lot of good sense of all of that. But I'm afraid that she may overturn some decisions that have been out there in a while if it becomes more of a conservative leaning court. And like you said, if she stays to just interpreting the law the way the Supreme Court is supposed to be, then I can be all right with her being on there. But I am afraid that there may be a little bit of this conservative wave. But y'all have had some great conversations. So if you tell a little bit about our folks about the Lawyer's Den,
I'm going to tell you
learn more about it.
Tonight's Lawyer's Den at 7 o'clock Eastern time, which is about 4 o'clock Pacific time. We're bringing in Judge Alvin Moore, will be our guest on the Lawyer's Den. Now, he is the principal owner of the Cochran Law Group. He took over from Tommy Cochran, who you may be familiar with, Rick, because he defended O.J. Simpson down in your neck of the woods. So he's going to be our special guest. He's now president-elect of the National Bar Association. He's our special guest tonight, and then we'll have our regular panel. Adam Laperano, who is a professor of constitutional law at Georgia. The University of Georgia State will be there also, along with Jeff Tykert, who is an attorney in Salt Lake. And we have another guest, Gidri, and I'll mispronounce her name, Stanslite. She is actually an attorney in the United States from Lithuania. So she is basically straddles between the United States and Lithuania. She lives in Washington, D.C. She'll be our other special guest tonight on the Lawyer's Den, which is 4 o'clock, I think, Pacific, 5 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, and when you learn Malaysian time, it's 7 a.m. Malaysian time. Okay, which is pretty easy to figure out. I know you figure out what time it is.
Yeah, you've got to figure out those time zones and everything. But I do have to teach you about one of your other guests, and I don't think she's been back on, but it was one that was a Dean Carla, and she she made the conversation that we did not have a dictator in office as of now, and I don't know about that because I think we may have a dictator in chief, and Rick may agree with me as well. But I did hear her say that we don't have a dictator in the United States. I was like, wait a minute, I think we've already got one at 1600 right now.
Yeah, Dean Carla Pratt's actually the dean of the Washburn University School of Law in Topeka, Kansas, and she's been on IBM TV several times. Great person to interview. I'm wondering if I could get her on tonight because the thing is, we're having the person who's like I said, the president-elect of the National Bar Association is going to be on tonight. All I have to do is ask her. You know, sometimes you go, well, all you can do is ask, hey, do you want to be on tonight? But we're going to be discussing obviously the appointment of Coney Barrett, and I think she's going to get it. And then there's going to be a whole nother issue. Are they going to expand the Supreme Court, which we historically have done since the Judiciary Act of 1789? It was actually expanded again in 1807, 1837, and 1862. So expanding the Supreme Court, it has historical precedence since the Judiciary Act of 1789. Will that take place? I don't know, but that keeps the Lawyer's Den interesting, exciting. See, Rick, we got to find out, how can we create content. Well, those people in Washington, D.C. who are so nutty create the content for us. So we don't have to do anything. We just have to
follow what they're doing.
just
They
follow up
create
what's
it.
happening to Washington, D.C. But if you're looking for content internationally, and a place that has beaten the pants out of our rating system comes actually from Humera Wood. Oh, there she is. And she just
Humera is an amazing lady.
Bonjour.
Right.
Humera is an amazing lady. She has an amazing show. We've been talking about some of the shows that exist here. And, you know, I've been watching your shows and seeing how you've been having some great guests talking about Bollywood and the music industry and a number of other things. You had that gentleman that has had the affiliations with the Ramones and some other group that was on. And then you had an actor that was well known in the community and everything. So definitely you've had some great guests. I think he was an actor, but he was.
No, I think you're talking about, it was, I had my cousin who's an orthopedic surgeon. He was actually the doctor for the Anaheim Angels and like WWE, like in the past, but he's also the lead singer of a group called Public Jones that won the best alternative group at the Hollywood Music and Media Awards. So that was like a big deal. Like he was on the like red carpet, and a member of Guns N' Roses gave him the award. So, and he's my cousin. So.
But Nick, one of the things that's amazing that happens on IBM.TV, apparently not, you know, because all kinds of great things happen. We have all these amazing guests. I know that Zach has brought some folks connected with like Bootsy and a number of the funk community. He's actually got somebody that'll be coming on, part of that community, that'll be coming on later on, a member of Mandrill and all of that. So he'll be on this weekend and all. But definitely one of the things that happens is we also have reunions, because apparently Humera and her cousin had not seen each other all that often and are now trying to figure out how they can actually see each other in person, because we had a reunion right here on IBM.TV.
I mean, it has literally been, the last time I saw him was 2001. That was the last time I saw him in real life. But I actually invited Zach Robertson to join my show when Dave Uhal was on, who played with the Ramones and the other groups, but he couldn't join because I remember I was on his show and he had expressed an interest. He's like, oh, when you have Dave Uhal on, invite me because I grew up in the same neighborhood or like down the street or something, but he couldn't be on. So maybe next time.
Yeah, well, I've already talked to him. He did tell me that he'd like to be on the next time that you bring Dave on and all of that, because I do produce Zach's show along with, or somebody referenced, actually, it was Wynn that referenced the term plant a seed. And of course, we've got Tish Oakley on Saturday as well. And she's going to have our friend J.H. Kim, who has popped on the show a couple of times on these panels, on a variety of our shows that will be Tish's guests this weekend. So we'll have California meets North Carolina and them having a discussion about wellness and wholeness and health and all of that. So it should be a great conversation at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So I do know that that is who our guest is at that time.
And I'm just going to play the intro of Humera Wood. It's very popular. It's Hollywood meets Bollywood. Let's take a
And by the way, speaking of applause, I got to tell you, because every once in a while I get, sitting at home and I'm working on the different shows and everything. So I check statistics and everything. And I've got to tell you, Nick, I was so glad that you brought me on, and I'm doing all these shows and everything, and I'm glad to do them. And I've definitely continued to bring great guests on and everything. But then I looked at the numbers, and I looked at the numbers of our two ladies that are joined us here in this conversation. And Humera and Wynn are like blowing all the guys out of the park. Every time I'm like seeing these statistics that are like crazy. I'm seeing them get like, hundreds of views and thousands of views. And I'm sitting there going like, what did they do? Just call all of their friends and everything, because the ladies are just rocking us, and they are definitely doing well. So girl power is definitely rocking in the
Go win!
TV world.
Thank
So,
you.
like I said,
Well,
I just
and
have
really
to acknowledge that, Nick. We've got to step up our game because, like I said,
I
when I
know
look
that.
at those numbers,
How
that I
about
saw
women
they were
win with win and Humera?
Apparently so. The thing is,
So,
we've just been shocked with the turnouts that the Win and Humera get on their shows, and I've been beating up Bill at American Politics about that. I'm saying, look, they don't care about politics. They want to see Bollywood and Hollywood. They want to see Win with Win and girl power.
Well, I realized I've been fortunate to meet some really famous Bollywood stars, and I've noticed like the last two shows I showed photos of two different super duper big Bollywood stars, and they have huge followings. And I realized, I mean, like just by putting their picture on, people are like, "Oh my god!" Because it's such a rare thing. India is like, I mean, it's the second most populous country in the world. To even within like a mile of a hero like that is a big deal. I'm like right beside them, so people are like, "What?" So that's a good thing.
Yeah, like,
and I have more pictures too to show with other Bollywood stars.
Yeah,
And Nick, and I see Rick's got a question to ask as well. But if we're going to talk about the girl power that exists here on this network and everything, we cannot leave out our good friend from South Africa because her numbers are also like blowing up, and she's bringing in all kinds of great numbers. Yeah. Alexandria May, in her Alexandria cafe, her Alexandria's Music Cafe. But yeah, she's bringing in guests from South Africa and from Nashville, from other places. So definitely that represents girl power. And we also have a puppeteer here in this area as well. So I don't know if you've been watching, but I've been seeing that Isabel and Rosie also are doing quite well.
I did watch that.
We've got the puppet is also a lady as well. So we've got a lady puppet plus the lady herself. So definitely, that's going on. So we've got this.
It's her story now. History's over. It's her story.
yeah. Rick, you had a comment, Rick.
I want a question.
Okay.
At a limping back into production, people are figuring out how to do it with COVID, and I just wondered what's happening with Bollywood and COVID or production.
Oh. It's bad. Like my parents, they get like all the channels, like the Indian channels that they show outside of India. And if you watch the news there's only like two things they talk about. COVID, like how the whole country's suffering and the numbers, because there's so many people, it's really hard to social distance. Like when you go outside, like some of those streets are so narrow and you have like all these people. I mean, there's really no way to social distance. And so that's the big news. The other big news is there's this famous Bollywood star who committed suicide earlier this summer. And that brought out a lot of like, the spotlight on like drug use in Bollywood and like of nepotism and all this stuff. And I mean, India's suffering right now because also in Hyderabad, where I'm from, they're having these major floods that haven't happened in like years and years. And like, there's like a story of a building worth of like water near the airport and stuff. So it's, I mean, namaste.
Namaste. Bro has arrived from Laos, Nigeria.
Yeah, we got Mind Closet from Nigeria. We've also got our sponsor as well. But one of the things I was going to add to what Humera was saying is that I know that that person that claims that all of the actors live in Hollywood has also been talking a lot about suicide and suicide prevention. And I think that there was more than one star that was from India over the last several months that has committed suicide. So I know that has been a major issue that has been put out there in the Bollywood community. And I was also glad, by the way, Nick, you'll be glad to know that it's not just going to be Bollywood meets Hollywood, but I've also put Humera in touch with a leading producer of the Hollywood. There's going to be Bollywood meets Hollywood meets Nollywood. So we're going to have Nollywood involved as well. So Nollywood is going to be joining the family as well because I put her in touch with
Humera's going to cover all the people.
Dr. Olatoy? Dr. Olatoy?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, I've been in touch with him. I mean, it's kind of difficult because of the time difference. And like, I think when the show airs, it's like really early morning there. And he's a very busy person. He's like the president of the African Oscars. So he's like a pretty big, he's huge. So hopefully that'll work out. So I'm actually working. I realized when I sit here and think about it, I'm like, I actually know a lot of people. And I realized my next door neighbor, like back when I lived in Charleston, West Virginia, he actually went to the Oscars because his friend was nominated. So, I mean, like I've reached out to both of them. So let's see what happens there.
Yeah, so we're seeing all these great guests and everything, and we've got the gentleman with Mind Closet, so he's definitely doing a lot of great things. I had the pleasure of being on his show with Win not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, but he is just doing amazing work and bringing great guests onto IBM.TV as well. And by the way, I noticed that even with, like a lot of times when we're not on the panels, we're still watching. So like I said, I know that I'll sometimes be watching and making comments. And I noticed that yesterday that I had some business executives on as well as some creative types. And then I looked up at my likes and some of the other things that were going on. And I noticed that Brother Mike had liked the show and liked the comments. And actually a comment was directed back to him. So Eric Kelly, who's doing a Black Business Expo here in North Carolina, was saying that we need to have more across the pond communication between the African-American community and those folks that are representing other parts of what is called the diaspora, whether that's Nigeria, whether that's South Africa, whether that's the Caribbean or whatever. So he made that plea to have that conversation with Brother Mike. So Brother Mike, how's it going over there in Nigeria, and how are you doing? And then I got to get to my man over there, Lynn, who is our keynote sponsor before we end everything. But how are you doing, Brother Mike? You got to hit the, you're on mute.
You're mute. You got to talk on. You're mute.
Yeah.
No, can't hear him.
Can't hear him. So hopefully he'll pop back and he'll talk about all the great things that they've got going on. Lynn, I'm glad that you're here because I know that you've got all kinds of amazing things going on. And, the Dollar Store is the key sponsor here on IBM.TV. We've got all kinds of great things going on. You've got both me and Nick on right now. And we are
everybody here right now is from America.
We are the primary Cookie Monsters, as well as the primary folks that are getting the pancakes and all of that. So I don't know if you saw the show a couple of days ago, like back this past Monday on the radio show, but I had some friends of mine that do antics with different images and things of that nature. They use a app called Snap Camera, and they appeared as the Cookie Monster. So they actually appeared as the Cookie Monster, and they appeared on the show, and they appeared as a variety of characters, including the Cookie Monster, and they appeared as cookies. So they appeared as cookies, as hot dogs, as a number of other things. Kim was in total stitches while that show was going on Monday evening between 4 and 7, but definitely she was in total stitches. But we did talk about the Dollar Store and the fact that me and Nick compete for those cookies. So like I said, I have not placed my order this week, but I need to place it. But there may not be any cookies because Nick may have ordered them all, because I know he oftentimes orders all the cookies. So Hamer, if you want any cookies, me and Nick already have them. So like I said, I think they're already gone.
I think the warehouse is large enough to handle you guys, and allow Humera. And unfortunately, we can't ship to Nigeria. So, Brother Okechukwu, and I've learned your name, and so I don't have to call you Michael. I'll call you Okechukwu because that's his real name, and I love that. But we can ship to where Rick is. We can ship to where the rest of us are, but Brother Okechukwu knows people here in the United States. So he's a customer. He can get people here in the United. He can order for them and have them shipped here, or he can just give them the gift tokens so that they can go ahead and sign up, become customers, and shop and support Money Masters PBS, which of course is why we're here. So and Money Masters PBS owns IBM TV and has a mission. And I was just talking to another lady who loves this mission. And Nick, we have to talk about her because it's a not-for-profit that provides money for people who have whatever they need. They have a kid that has cancer. This is a kid in Mays Landing, New Jersey, has cancer. They can't even afford, because of the cost of medical care for their kid, they can't afford to put oil in their in the tank for the winter. So this not-for-profit is providing them with money, and they love the mission of Money Masters. So maybe it's something that you might like to have this lady come on and talk about what their mission is and how they can help people who are in need around the United States, because that's what they do. So, but you can let me know that.
Okay.
Anyway, so notwithstanding that, let's talk about the Dollar Store quickly.
Yes.
So the Dollar Store basically is an online dollar store, 4,300 items. We've asked Mark to try and to do a whole show where he goes through all 4,300 items.
I'm only going to do that if Humera brings me the Bollywood actors and actresses to help me with the show. So I need like help from Humera that she brings the actors and actresses so we can have those high numbers that we need at IBM.
So, yep. So we'll do that. But anyway, we deliver for free for orders of $25 and over. We have gift tokens. So anybody who signs up to become a customer automatically gets $5 worth of gift tokens. We're giving 100% of our profit to Money Masters through the month of October. And through the month of October, for anybody who signs up to become a customer, we're giving $5 more of gift tokens. So basically, you're going to have $10 worth of gift tokens you can use to shop on the store. We have tons of items, tons of great items, but probably the one that I should mention the most, because Kimberly loves it, is the Minion napkins.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though you're seeing beauty products and CBD products and various things that you can see on the store, these are the Minion napkins. And Kimberly has started a Minion Napkin Club, and we invite everybody to join the Minion Napkin Club. But we have great products. There's one, and I want to mention, they're quality products. So if Bill were here, he would prompt me to say they are quality products. They just cost you less. So we have one beauty product that Humera is the only one here that cares about using it, because she doesn't want to have lines on her face. I know that the rest of us, we don't care. But we have a product that costs $5.99, the same equivalent product, same size, same amount, okay, costs $67 on Amazon. I mean, wow. That's the kind of thing you can find. Now, not everything is going to have that kind of a disparity, but we sell things a lot less than you're going to find for many of the products in brick and mortar stores. And why go out? Why subject yourself to the possibility of getting COVID when you can stay home? And as Kimberly would like to remind us, time is money. So when you're staying home, you can accomplish other things to help you make money, because there are 5 aspects of financial fitness, which is what Money Masters and IBM TV are helping to provide for people. And the first aspect is to spend your money wisely and pay for all your bills. And the second aspect is to save. Well, you can save by shopping at the dollar store, which allows you to also spend your money wisely. But then the third is to invest and to make sure that when you're finished, that you have enough money to pay your taxes. And by the way, today's the last day. I mailed my taxes yesterday, okay, my returns. And then number 5, pay forward. And when you're shopping at our dollar store, which is family.dollarstore.com, but you don't have to remember that, because you can get on IBM TV, click on the big round green button, and bingo, you're right on the store. You can sign up as a customer. You get your $5 worth of gift tokens. But when you sign up, you're supporting Money Masters. You're paying forward. You're saving money because you're spending wisely. And then the last thing I'll say, and then we want to go back to Brother Okechukwu, because he hasn't had a chance to talk. But the last thing I'll say is, with all the disasters we've had here in the United States, especially with the 4 hurricanes that have hit the southern states, or the fires that are happening out west, find an organization that is helping the people, because people have lost everything. The people in the fires, they've seen everything they had just gone, and they are getting food from local organizations. But think of staples, things of toothpaste, toothbrushes, soaps, baby bottles for their kids, things that they need that they don't have because they lost them all, or they lost them in the hurricane. So help those people out. Buy at the dollar store. You're supporting Money Masters, but you're helping the people, and you're saving money while you're doing it anyway. So you're spending your money wisely. So with that, I'm sort of finished. You can see the products. The important one you just saw there was the mask. We have boxes of 50 for $25. And I'm going to turn it over to Brother Okechukwu.
Yep, and we've also got Jeff that's joined us as well. And by the way, they also have these great little spending things as well. I just picked this up not that long from the dollar store. So Yamira, I know you've got a young teenage son and everything, so he can definitely find a way to put his money in the savings if he doesn't have a savings thing there in home. So definitely that's one of the items that they have that I went and picked up recently, along with some things to decorate the house and things of that nature. So they do have decoration items also. So Brother Mike, if I will, because I haven't learned how to pronounce the name, I'm going to do like Lynn and get better with the pronunciation. But for now, I'm going to call you Brother Mike. So, Brother Mike, tell folks what you got going on with the Mind Closet. And then we still got about another 10 minutes. So I also need to hear from Jeff as well before we all hop over to the Gamers Den or whoever wants to join over there. But definitely, Brother Mike, tell us what's going on with Mind Closet.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Well, My Closet 101 is still on. Tomorrow will be awesome because I'll be having 2 more guests. One is an artist, and he's going to be talking about addiction, how he got addicted and how he got off addiction of drugs. The other is a psychologist that is going to talk about how to get off of drugs, addiction of drugs, and the other one is coming from the spiritual angle because we're trying to see if we could balance physical with the spiritual, especially for Nigerians that are too carried away with spirituality, in the sense that when someone is a drug addict, they look at it as probably the person is being possessed, and to us it's not really normal. So I'm having them to come in, but please let me be given just 5 minutes to talk about what's really happening in Nigeria, especially what's trending. On Saturday, that just passed, the 10th of October, we experienced an election in a state called Ondo State, and the incumbent governor won, and his name is Rotimi Akeredolu. Yes, he was emerged the winner on Saturday of the governor election in Ondo State, and he's actually a member of the ruling party, which is called APC, All Progress Congress, and he won 15 local government out of 18. But what's trending really now, it's the protest and SARS. SARS is like a police department that deals on armed robbery, kidnappings, and weapons. And actually, there was a protest that was led on Monday that was really, it was good, but had to spread all over the states. First of all, it started in the city of Lagos. It started in, first of all, in Ikeja, in Lekki, and Surulere. But eventually, the one in Surulere got violent. 4 people were shot, 2 police officers, and 2 protesters were shot. 1 died eventually. And they were giving out 5 points that they wanted the government to accept. And eventually, the Inspector General of Police, which is the head of the police department in Nigeria, virtually dissolved SARS, but brought in a new department again, which is called SWAT. And the people went violent again the next day to protest, saying they don't want it, that they want all this to be dissolved, and gave the president a 5-point agenda, which was approved some days back, which included first of all, halting of use of force against protesters, and release of arrest citizens that were part of the protest, justice for victims of the police brutality, including payments of and compensation, then a psychological evaluation of all policemen, and lastly, including increasing their salaries. But actually, as the day went by, the protests spreaded to other parts of Nigeria, which made a governor of a state come out to support the end of SARS, which is Rivers State. But Governor Wike supported his people. At first, he condemned the protest, saying nobody should protest in the state, but eventually he had to come out when the youths kicked into the streets and started shouting they need the end of SARS. And I'd say we are happy, the youths are happy that eventually he came and supported them. So it spread to Port Harcourt, to Imo State, that's Owerri, Akure, Ibadan, Yola, Enugu. Then this Arise TV crew member was assaulted by the military during that. And yes, the governor of Lagos State agreed to set up a 200 million fund for victims. And to end it all, we're so happy that this is really happening, because actually the police brutality in Nigeria is getting out of hand. We've had so many cases, although I was planning to have them on My Closet 101 this Friday, but eventually I couldn't. But I'm looking out for next week or next 2 weeks, where we'll have different heads of police departments from all over the world to talk about brutality, how it can stop, and how we can, get to interact with the police, because some of us are really getting wild when we see the parades because of the mindset. Nigerians, and I know it's not only Nigerians, there are people all over the world that hate the police, but there's a way we need to interact with these people that will not lead into violence. So that's all I have for today.
Hey, bro, you know what you should do for us? It'll help us out in the United States. Is before you start your show, do like a minute news report on Nigeria, because we don't get any of this information here in the United States on any of our channels. What goes on, and Nigeria has a population over 100 million people, and what you just shared with us is the first time I've heard about it. It's not on any of our news channels at all. So if you could, before your show, just do a 1 minute news report on what's going on in Nigeria, it would help out people in the United States, because everything you said to me is news. Never even heard about it. I don't know if you heard it, Herman or Lynn or Rick or Jeff. I heard nothing about this.
No, I had not heard anything about that. I had heard that there was definitely that police violence wasn't just an issue here in the United States. It was an issue around the world in other countries. So I didn't know it was an issue in places like Australia and a number of other things. But the kind of report that he gave us in that kind of detail, I had not heard before. Right. And actually, I like your idea, Nick. I'm actually thinking that maybe we need to do like a minute from Nigeria, a minute from Australia, a minute from India, and different things of that nature that tie in with
a news minute from Nigeria would be very helpful, or even if it was 5 minutes, if you have enough material, would be very helpful, because it's not on CNN, ABC, NBC. None of the news channels carried what you just said, none. So it's very important. So please,
right.
I like your show. I like your show, but it would also help it helped us to let us know what's going on over in Lagos, Nigeria. That's
one of the things I know we've got to get ready to wrap up, because we all got to run over to whoever wants to go to the Gamers Den and everything. So I know we get ready to wrap up. But one of the things I was going to say is that, Brother Mike, I will reach out to some of my friends that are involved in the police force here in North Carolina, as well as some other parts around the East Coast, and see if they are able to come on those shows that you are talking about in not this Friday, but in upcoming Fridays. So we'll chat and figure out how that can happen, because I do know the police chief here in Durham, who is originally from Atlanta, as well as our sheriff. So they might be, I know they've been on other panels, so they might be interested in coming on yours as well. Before we get off, and I think we got about 2 minutes, I need Jeff to say what he's got going on, because we had Weed Wednesday, because I need Jeff to give us a quick shout out before we all bounce off, because we have not heard at all from Jeff.
Yeah,
thank you. I'll make it brief. 2 weeks ago, we had a 12-hour broadcast with IBM.TV, and it was very epic. We raised quite a bit of money, over $1,000, for the fire victims in California and Oregon. And one gentleman that came on, that his house burned down, he opened the door to his house overlooking the Willamette River, and he was holding his kitty in his hand, and both him and his cat caught on fire, and his wife caught on fire, and they sat on a log in the river for 7 hours watching their house burn down. And he is part of my benefactor program. So We're going to be doing more for them, and he's blessed that we're part of this. He didn't even have a PayPal. He didn't, so I'm teaching him, and he's blessed. And I said, did you grab any of your guitars? He said, are you joking? And so he lost Gibsons worth thousands of dollars and old classic wood handmade guitars and instruments. So we're asking everybody to donate instruments and equipment, sound equipment, and also money, of course, to the cause. And I'm dispersing that to a few of my benefactors. So that was really beautiful. And then this week we had Vivian McPeak. 30 years he's been running Hemp Fest in in Seattle, and they normally have 100,000 people on the waterfront come to their event, but they had their virtual event this week, and yesterday we had them on our show, him and his co-producer, and I played a replay video that I cut and made, and it takes hours to cut somebody's video for free, and their response to seeing themselves on television was, we really needed to see that. We never even saw ourselves or knew how we looked, and it went great, and blah, blah, blah. So HempFest was very successful. They're online. It was very educational. They had doctors. They have a thing called Hemposium, and the Hemposium virtual was very instructional. It talked about hempcrete to make hempcrete part of the new building material made out of hemp. And so it was just a great day, and I'm blessed to be with you all. And that's all I have to report.
Well, get ready to bounce off. I know that I'm getting ready to turn it over to Nick to let us wrap up and get ready to go into the Gamers Den. But I was just going to say really quickly that apparently the whole network here on IBM.TV is amazing, because we've had two, because I also did a show that had a guest from the Hemp Fest as well that was one of the producers. So we've actually had that festival featured twice on our network, because that was done, I think, last weekend on the online dinner party on Mullins. But I know it was done last week. So we've now been, Hemp Fest has now been featured twice on, because I was glad to have, it might have been that same producer. I've got to look back at my notes and see if that was.
Well, it's time to end prohibition. So everybody, please vote for the party that's going to help to make it so.
Yes, and we'd like to thank everybody for coming to Podcasters Thursday. We'll see you next week. Gamers Den is next up on IBM TV.